The first look at Foundry version 12 is here. Although this new version is still some time away, the Foundry team released a blog post giving us a preview of the planned features of Foundry version 12. Let's dive into these upcoming features, and you'll want to stick around till later in the video because we will go through how Foundry will be building on the UI and UX overhauls of version 11 in version 12. Hi there, my name is Foundry, your VTT wizard, and I have over 300 hours using Foundry VTT, so you know I'm obsessed with this software. On this channel called Dice and Easy, I give you VTT tutorials and daily TTRPG beams as YouTube shorts, so if that sounds like your thing, hit that subscribe button down there. Foundry VTT is currently on version 11, which got its first stable version on May 24th this year, and currently the Foundry team has been releasing updates to version 11, but they are also working on an intermediary version 11.5, which will make checking compatibility of modules between your current Foundry version and the next version, starting with version 11 and 12, easier, and allows you to do backups inside Foundry itself. If you want to know more about the version 11.5 features, I have a video on it which I will link in the description below. We don't know yet when version 11.5 is coming out, and while the Foundry team is working on it, they're also setting the stage for version 12 coming later in the future. Before we dive any deeper, I just want to remind you of the Foundry VTT development process. Foundry VTT version 12 is currently in the planning stages, which means that the team over at Foundry have now outlined the new major features that are going to be part of it. Do note that these are provisional plans for version 12, and the final implementation of the features can change later on. While version 12 is in the planning stages, let me remind you of the Foundry development process. After a version leaves the planning phase comes the prototype stage, where the new major features are implemented, but things are still very rough and many things break. This stage is meant for the developers to implement these new features and for module developers to get a start on updating their modules to accommodate this new version. After that, we get to the development phase where the new major features are polished while bugs still remain. Then we get to the testing phase where the main focus is bug fixing to reach a stable version and no new major features are implemented. Finally, once the version is stable enough, we get our first stable version, which is the full release of a new version of Foundry VTT. All of this is to say that we are still some ways from the stable release of version 12, but let's now discuss the new major features coming in version 12. To start off, let's talk about the feature that won the Patreon voting. As a refresher, whenever the Foundry team starts work on the next major version of Foundry, they hold a vote for the patrons where they get to vote on one feature from a list of features for the next version. This time, the winner was event triggers, and apparently the voting was incredibly tight, with event triggers winning by just one vote. If you want to see what the other features to vote on were, check out my version 11.5 video where I go through them, linked in the description. So event triggers will allow users to define scripted events that occur dynamically when tokens interact with a certain area of a scene. For example, if you wanted to create a pressure plate trap that releases a boulder at the end of the hallway, like in Indiana Jones, or have all the lights turn off when the players touch an ancient artifact, you can do that with event triggers. These event triggers will feature some out-of-the-box presets, but users will also be able to use macros and other scripted events. To facilitate this new feature, the Foundry team will also develop a new scene regions framework for defining specific regions in a scene. This will bring an API for module developers to build on so they can provide event triggers, environmental special effects, changes to support terrain and cover, and much more. This new feature opens the door for some really cool triggered events, and I can imagine a whole host of modules that build off of it. I know something like this already exists as a module for Foundry, but it's great to see it become part of Foundry Core. For all the details on the event triggers and the other features that I will mention shortly, check out the Foundry blog post linked in the description below. One of the most important parts of Foundry VTT is the game canvas, because this is the part of the software that players spend the most time with. To improve on this critical part of Foundry, there are 4 new improvements planned in version 12. 1. Global illumination will be reworked. This will allow for a richer configuration to fine-tune the appearance of global illumination, extending controls similar to other light sources. 2. Elevation and sorting will be standardized so that these features can provide API-level standards for the elevation and sort fields of all Canvas documents. 3. The detection mode system will be widely improved and changed to add support for additional types of detection and senses, including imprecise senses, conditional detection based on certain conditions, prioritization of detection modes, and more. And 4, tokens will get a scalable shader-based application of special effect animations. Even though this is only an API-level feature at this stage, it will be the first steps in providing dynamic animations for cases where a token grows in size, teleports, or has its texture changed. Another great host of improvements that I can't wait to see. I'm particularly excited to see token animations become part of Foundry Core in the future. Okay, this is the big one. Version 11 of Foundry VTT started the UI and UX overhaul with the changes to the world and setup pages. Now it's time to take those same changes to the game world. However, overhauling the whole UI and UX of the game world is a huge undertaking, so version 12 will deliver the first stage of this overhaul. As part of this UI and UX overhaul, the HTML rendering will be revisited, providing a more modern and flexible approach to rendered applications. This will not replace handlebars, but is intended to provide an alternate path that includes more advanced options for those who wish to use them. In addition to this HTML revisit, the game view UI will be redesigned. This redesign of the game view UI will provide a modernization of the software in the interests of making user interaction more streamlined, intuitive, and modern. The new UI experience is expected to be an opt-in experimental feature throughout version 12, but will become an opt-out feature in version 13 before it is cemented as the permanent new UI in Foundry version 14, which will be way further in the future. These UI changes, I feel, are some of the most important changes that the Foundry team can make. With a remarkably improved UI and UX, new users will have an easier time learning the software, which will make it more attractive and will lead to more people using Foundry VTT, which that's a win-win in my books. To round this preview off, the Foundry team will be including a whole host of improvements to the underlying libraries, frameworks, and architecture of Foundry Core. Here are 4 of these improvements that the Foundry team highlighted in the blog post. 1. The dice rolling API is getting updated to version 3. This concludes the deprecation period for synchronous roll evaluation, implementing a new approach for formula parsing, and providing support for manual or Bluetooth provided roll results. 2. A broad stroke series of improvements to the Prose Mirror rich text editor, including more support for dynamic blocks, inline nodes, improved HTML editing, and more. 3. WebSockets are getting improvements. Changes to socket update buffering, refactoring of Foundry's WebSocket approach to shift away from the use of socket.io in favor of native browser sockets and other WebSocket performance optimizations. And 4, version 11 of Foundry did notable database restructuring, which will be used to further build on in version 12. This will include further improvements for loading functions, migrations, and additional stored data. This last bit of improvements probably won't sound like much to the average Foundry user, but I'm sure all you module developers there will be excited to hear these. Okay, let's recap what is coming in Foundry version 12. Event triggers will allow you to set up scripted events when users interact with a certain part of the scene. The game canvas will receive improvements that will touch on areas like global illumination and elevation and sorting. The game view UI and UX redesign is coming in version 12 and will continue into version 13. Lastly, several architectural improvements, including updates to the dice rolling API and WebSockets. Whew, I don't know about you, but I am super excited for version 12 of Foundry. I know that we still have to wait a while since the Foundry team is now working on version 11.5, but I just can't wait for version 12. The feature I'm most excited for is the game view UI and UX redesign, because I feel like this could bring a whole new audience over to Foundry, which would be just fantastic. More users equals more revenue for Foundry, equals more resources, equals more new features in the future. What is your favorite version 12 feature of Foundry VTT? Let me know in the comments below, because I would love to hear your thoughts on the future of Foundry VTT. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I would kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. These small deeds help my videos and channel reach more people, and it would mean a lot to me. Also, if you want to show me some extra appreciation, you can also send me a super thanks by clicking the thanks button below the video down there. On the screen right now, you're going to see another video of mine where I go through the upcoming features in Foundry version 11.5, you know, the video I mentioned a couple of times. If you want to know what will be in this intermediary Foundry version, check out my video on the screen right now. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.